Let's open this meeting and take a roll count. Here's the roll sheet for y'all to sign in.
I didn't even bring a pen
I
either.
didn't either.
I got you.
I usually do, but I didn't this time.
I usually do too, and I didn't this time either.
Looks like we've got Mr. Rick Susi, we've got Mr. Tim Brown, we've got Mr. Dwight Stubblefield, and we've got myself, Mr. David Nipper here.
No, not Stubblefield.
You're not Stubblefield. Oh, I'm so sorry. I about got smacked off the table. My bad. Y'all know I'm horrible with names.
This must be a new
Oh, they didn't have a plastic off of it.
one. No.
So,
You want to keep that for notes?
Yeah, no, we're straight tonight.
Yeah, I started saying you might need it.
everybody take a minute, look over the agenda, and I'll need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been approved and seconded. All right, we don't have any public, so no public comments. Previous meeting notes, I pulled from March, was our last official meeting. And those were from March 8th of 2024. And that's when we voted in Rick to take over Robert Gillum's place. It's when we,
Is this minutes or just the last agenda? Is this just the agenda from the last meeting?
it is, and
So there's no minutes.
I gotta get the minutes, my bad.
No, it's fine.
Hang on.
I was just making sure.
Here's the minutes. I apologize. I'll give you, I've gotta get copies of them, but there's the minutes. I got copies of the wrong thing.
You gonna run and get a copy real quick, or we just pass this around?
We can pass it around a second. I wasn't at the meeting, so
Well, then what?
I don't know anything about it anyway. I'm not gonna make the motion since I wasn't in there.
Took me a little while to dig through Ralphie's stuff and find them, but I found them. We need to approve minutes from last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second them.
That's not really our last meeting, is it? We had one.
That was more of
That's
a,
right.
like a work meeting. I didn't make it an official meeting.
Okay, the
Yeah.
one.
This would be an official because I made an agenda for
Okay.
it. So that's why I put on this one unfinished business would be to discuss the pay rate for the maintenance out there and to discuss back paying all the way to May of 2024. So I feel like that's absolutely fair to go back to May and back pay these guys. But we need to settle a rate. And I want to get that done as quick as possible so I can get these minutes in and get them to Mariana so that it's done. So we do need to discuss a rate. I know budget-wise we can top out at 70, but do we want to do that all at one time?
I think so.
I didn't hear anything about the backing back to May. Do you agree with that?
That's fine. Whatever you guys decide.
I have no idea. I wasn't there.
Because I'm directly involved with this, I really can't vote on this or speak to it. I would rather you guys.
I mean, you can
just-
speak to it.
I mean, I
just-
can speak to what. Well, I mean, I kind of already spoke to where we had the discussion back in May. It wasn't I guess it wasn't official. It wasn't even. It's not even in the minutes. So, but we had talked about it, and we didn't discuss. We discussed. I kind of put out there what I felt like was needed, and we talked about 65 to 70, just based on, just the going rate. Obviously, it's still heavily discounted. Like the going rate for a service call from just a local
It's probably
plumbing
125
companies is
to
like
150.
$125, and plus it's usually there's usually like $125 trip fee, and then you got like $100, $100 to $125, and it's probably this was a year and a half ago, but
Yeah.
it could even be more now. But the first hour is usually ranges between 125 to 150 per hour on top of that. So, but we also realize that the county provides us with a vehicle, so we're not putting miles on our own vehicle, wear and tear. It's for me personally. I have to try to do what's best for my guys. You know what I
Right,
mean?
and that's
Because-
why we want you to speak to it, because you
and,
know the situation.
So, on a typical call on a Wednesday, if we're crazy busy at the county, okay, obviously we can't leave to go there until after we're done with everything we've done. So I have to, my guys have to stay later and do work. That's not as big as a strain as when I have to call one of them on a Sunday afternoon. They're barbecuing with their family or whatever. And right now I have an extra guy, so it makes it a little bit easier. Where one guy's like, oh, I'm at a game with my kid. I can't. Obviously, I'd rather not go, and I can switch to the next one. If the next one can't go, then obviously I go. I'm usually the last resort on going, just because I'm usually the busiest. But on the weekends, it's like who's not doing something with their family or with their kids or on vacation or whatever. So it's just it just takes a lot of time away from them. And the preventative maintenance, man, it's not getting done.
No.
And it's going to be really vital now that we're getting a new updated system. I mean, to keep up with it, to make sure it lasts the 25 to 30 years
yeah.
that we need it to. But I haven't been able to, encourage guys to, after working 8 or 9 hours, maybe sometimes 10 hours at the county, hey, I need you to go clean filters for the next 2 hours,
Right.
3 hours. It's at $40 an hour when their overtime rate at the county to not play in crap water is equal to that, or
Yeah.
and one person is more than that. You know what I mean? Due to their overtime. So that's where I've over the last 2 years I've struggled with.
I mean, until we hit 2026, until we get out of 2026 physical budget, and you guys will see that in these, until we hit 2026's physical budget, we are still paying off this loan. That loan will be paid off in this year, the end of this year, fiscal year, and it'll free us up like $2,800 a month. I don't know. Right now, we can't afford to go higher than 70, and if we do 70, these guys won't get another raise for 2 years.
And we understand. Like we're not here. We're also here not to try to put this system in or this organization or anything in any kind of strain.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So this what I'm asking for, I feel like is sufficient enough to last. Let's say another 2 years. I feel like it is. I mean, it's I feel bad because it's such a big jump, but it's the exact same thing that we've been dealing with the county, and you guys can kind of for county employees, we went 10 years with getting very little raises,
Right.
and so now that the county is kind of in a better situation, the last few years, the employees have gotten brought back, starting to get brought back up. This 40 to 70, it seems like a really big jump. It really does, but you have to understand we've been working on the system for 20 years at $40 an hour, and we all know over the last 5 years what things have
Increased to,
as far as cost has
right.
gone up to. So, I mean, on paper, it's like, man, these guys are asking for $30 more an hour from what they've been getting. But the problem is it's gone so long without getting anything. Is why we're
How
in
does
this
that?
situation.
One question for me is, when does that time start? Does that time start from the moment they fire up their truck, or the moment they get on the site?
So, so as soon as they, turn their truck on, like if we're in Tullahoma, we all live in Tullahoma, and Tullahoma's pretty far away. But if I call my guy on Saturday at noon, it's from the time he leaves in his truck until the time he gets back to where he came from.
So we're paying an hour of drive time, 30 minutes
Can
here,
be,
30 minutes
yeah,
back.
45 minutes.
It'll
Can
be
be,
every bit of it.
can be.
I got a few questions,
Mm-hmm.
if you're through.
Go ahead.
And since I'm not familiar with most of it, what kind of calls do you usually get? When you say filters, are you talking about the whole system's filters?
So the
Are
whole.
you talking
so
about
we have,
individual connections?
Well,
or-
both. I mean, both. What we try to do is, so if we get a call on any property, when we're there, obviously we're taking the lid off and we're already pulling everything out. We try to
Service.
to clean the filters and stuff. Most calls are the pumps are stopped up.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out in my mind, how fast do we respond typically?
We
Do
had
you
oh, go ahead.
20.
always respond if he's short of people? If you've got one service that's causing the problem, it's not as imminent.
24
Is the
hours is
system
usually
really-
their response time is
Yeah,
usually.
we try not to ever let it go beyond one day. So if we get a call, especially on the weekends, if we get a call on Saturday or Sunday, we usually go out there within the next like 4 to 5 hours.
Well, that's what I was
Hardly,
wondering.
but
Nobody wants to come on Sunday.
Yeah, but
Will it make it till Monday?
But at the same time, we signed up for this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. We signed
that's
up for
what I'm
this. So
asking.
when we get calls on Saturday and Sunday, one of us, like at the time, it was just two of us. One of us has to go. I
And
mean,
there are
that's just part
sometimes
of it.
that-
I mean, nobody wants sewer water backing up into their system or flowing. The biggest thing is like, so if a tank fills up and it starts overflowing into the yard, that in itself is an issue. It's a problem. Like we don't want
Sure.
raw sewage in the back of somebody's yard. People got kids,
But
animals, whatever.
If I were at my house and I
Yeah.
flushed a commode and then it started backing up, I'm not flushing it again.
Yeah, so usually the system though is designed for when the alarm goes off at a normal rate. It's designed to go another 24 hours before it's an actual like it's blowing over the top. So that's kind of on a good. Now, not every system operates actually to its
Sure.
potential, but when the way they designed it was so there's a float system. When that alarm float kicks up, it's not blowing out of the tank. You still have another, area. You still have a pretty good section. So
But do the people living in that structure know that? Do they always recognize it? Is it making a noise?
yeah,
Is it just
so an
quiet?
alarm does go off
They
if
should hear it.
Your neighbors can hear the
Yeah,
alarm.
the alarm. We get a lot of calls from neighbors. We get a lot of calls from the individuals. And unfortunately, there is some control panels just because they're so old that the alarm doesn't work properly. They just see a light come on or lights, and they'll see it, or they'll, worst case scenario, they go outside and water is coming out of the top of their tank, and they don't know what it is. They just call a number on the box. Not a lot of people that live out there don't know what the system is or how it operates or why there's an alarm going off in their backyard. They
Because a
just-
lot of people are rentals.
yeah,
a lot of
rentals or
When we get a lot of rain,
that's
how close to the ground are the lids?
so. Groundwater is a huge problem out there. I'll put it that way. Huge problem.
That's what I thought.
But it's not just the lid. So the tanks, it's just like a normal septic tank sits in there, and they have risers on them. Most of the risers don't. They leak.
And
Most
that's
of
why it's in the APR.
Yeah, we're
to
supposed to
replace
be
them.
getting upgraded risers, and hopefully the upgraded risers will
So
perform
how
better.
high do they usually set those lids?
Most of them are sitting in the ground.
So they like to mow over them.
Mm.
We have to replace a lot of lids, but some of them are up a little bit more. But it's still the riser itself is, they'll stack two risers on, But the bottom riser that meets up to the tank is where the issue is. That's where the groundwater. If it's raining heavy, you can pull that lid off and you can
It's
sit
not
there and
gonna
you can
seal.
sit there and watch rainwater drop in that system, and it puts the system at a. Oh, we get most of our calls
After heavy rain.
During
heavy
the rain.
heavy rain, yeah. And then of course you get a lot of, where it really hits the system really hard. So alarms go off at the plant, alarms go off, on individual houses, and by the time we get there, some of them, you got to pull the pump and clean them all, clean whatever pump you pulled, and they'll have leaves and just all kinds of stuff in there just due to the
There's
weight.
nowhere for the water to go out there.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I assumed.
So,
When
but
they set them at ground level,
yeah, so
it's gonna even be worse.
yeah, so typically most of the lids are where you can mow over top of them. They're lower than they're lower than your grass. I mean, they sit high, just right at the grass, right at the ground.
So it's always gonna get a lot of infiltration.
Yeah, and it's not just the water up here; it's the water coming up from the
Right,
ground
right,
that
right.
that slips in
'Cause it doesn't
through
take
the riser.
long for that ground.
I mean, we've
soaked.
been to properties when it rains a bunch. I mean, the whole tank is underwater just from water sitting on top of it.
Yeah.
Now the lids do seal down. That helps out some, but some of them, it just comes in from the riser, from underneath the riser, where the riser and the tanks meet. I mean,
Is there a seal between that?
they're supposed to be, but it's been 20 years,
Yeah.
since they've been
So
set,
they
and that's kind of why
They
we've
don't still
seal.
seal.
Yeah, and that's why we do have it in the scope of work, and hopefully we'll have enough money to address that. But that's, something that has to be
So
done.
how much is the loan right now to be paid this year?
We are right underneath $100,000. And that's to the county.
And so what time frame will it be paid?
We should be paid by September of 26. That's when we should be paid off in full.
Is that part of the reason you lowered the cost per month?
Yes. Part of the
So
reason,
you were bidding
well,
and still waiting until it gets paid off?
part of the reason we lowered the cost was to get people to pay their bill. Because before I took over as chairman of this board, it was an option.
Yeah, until it went to Hillsville,
And
they
till I
weren't gonna pay it.
went to Hillsville and made a deal with them that we pay them $3 instead of $2, and so we pay them out of Wayside an extra $1. The customers still pay $2 extra, so they actually pay $82. And we get 80 of it, and then we pay an extra $1, so we actually get $79 per customer.
So right now, we're losing money until that loan's paid off.
Yes and no. Yes and no, we're losing money. Because we have to hook up 6 systems a year at the rate that Rick locked in. When he locked that rate in, we started adding. We have to add 6 systems a year to make up the difference.
Back to that, why do we want to keep adding?
Well, because right now it's only for 3 years. It's only 18 houses, puts us at 84, which was where you can go with the system, and not be any strain on the system, because the system can actually hold 124, but we're not going that high.
But we're probably gonna always have a problem because of the ground level
Yes.
and the fact that it doesn't perk.
So we can stay at 84 and be good. By the time we're done, we'll be at 78 houses developing out there, because people are still building houses and wanting to hook onto the system. But once we hit 84, it's going to be me going in front of the planning commission and going, hey, we can't put any more houses out here.
Who owns those properties now?
A little bit of everybody. Yeah, it's different people.
They're
So
always gonna wanna sell theirs. And I guess at some point, there's gonna be more lots, we're gonna say, you're not connecting anymore.
right, there's going to
They're
come a
not gonna
time.
be able to sell their lots.
Right. There's going to be a time to where we're going to have to say, I'm sorry, we can't allow any more to the system, because then it puts a strain on it, and that's not fair to the other people out there. And it's definitely not fair to the guys who are having to work on it, because that system is going to crash even more and more.
So I'm still back to, why do we wanna add any?
Well, we can't keep telling these people that they can't build.
You're going to at some point,
At some point, we're going to have to.
so I'm not sure what the difference is.
Well, the difference right now for the next year and a half is to keep our budget afloat. is we've got to hit the at least 78 mark. We've got to hit 6 houses a year to
Before
keep
we pay
profitable.
the loan off, though, you would never get enough taps and revenue to help.
So my question on that one is, and something I'm looking into, is we charge these people more land tax out there than we charged anybody else in the county, but I don't know where that percentage went. So when this whole deal went down, if you read through the history of it, when this whole deal went down, we charged them this much in maintenance, plus we raised their land tax out there, but we don't have a clue where the land tax went. So I don't see the land tax on any of the budgets where that
thought-
extra money went.
I don't know why, but I thought the fact that you're talking about land tax, property tax,
Property tax, yeah.
the county is not funding that anyway, right?
The county's not funding it, but they charged us extra property taxes for the people out there to help pay towards the system. So,
Just to help them out, not to keep it going from now on, right?
right, just to help pay towards the loan of the system when it was
That was
first
already,
initiated in 2017. And so, my question is, where has that money been going? Because we haven't seen it hit the budget. So it's a question I want to ask the trustee.
So, the county is not funding any of the loan?
So if the land doesn't perk, you just hook to the septic tank. But
If you
How-
don't, if it doesn't perk, you don't get a septic.
Yeah, you hook to the system.
the system's what I meant. And then if the ground's a swamp, how do you get a building permit to do a footer? Because you'd have to dig.
They give them one. We see houses built out there all the time, do we not?
Somehow.
I don't know how that's shouldn't be even passing.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. I mean, there's houses being built out there that I'm like, how'd they even get a permit?
Well, I
mean, I'm
guess
just-
that's what
I'm-
I keep getting back to.
I'm-
Why are we doing it?
I'm speculating that they feel like because there is
A system.
the system out there, then it doesn't really matter that it floods because they're like, well, they're pumping the water to the wayside facility, and then
It just
doing it that
doesn't
way.
seem to make sense to me when we know we've got a problem and always will have, to keep adding to it.
Yeah, but it's under my understanding also though there is some houses out there that have always been out there
Yeah, there's 7.
that were allowed to keep their septic tank until
It
I
went
want to
bad.
say 2020. I thought there was a date like a 2027.
2027, yes. And then they have to go on system.
Yeah, and then
That's
they have to
not
be on
long.
the system. So
And
I
you're
can-
gonna have to add those anyway.
I can understand, having to add those systems now.
That's-
Well, I can see those.
Yeah,
I
but
wonder
now
why we build new houses.
But the county giving building permits to houses out there on top of that is, that's obviously not.
Maybe we need to step over and see if the coach is still here
I
so
don't
they can come and
understand.
ask her.
Right. I mean, and that's where, when they come to me and say, hey, they've got to hook onto the system, they paid their fee. It's either I say, I'm sorry, no, you've built a house and we're not going to let you hook up to the sewage system. Or,
Well, I don't think that ought to happen, because we ought to know beforehand, you're never gonna hook on, so you better not build your house.
well, we don't know these things. The
Yeah.
only things that I
Yeah.
get told is
And I think,
We
Go
could
ahead.
get that done, I would assume, at the county level.
and it probably does, but here's probably what is happening is that they're already, because this has happened probably a month ago, because somebody called me and I'm like, you're talking to the wrong person, and then and then I think they called David and David got it worked out. But they were already well beyond, they've already footer, framing, everything was already done, I think.
Okay.
And then they were like, hey, we need
Let's
to hook
say
in.
before we do the next
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like
permit,
before
don't
anything
do
is
it anymore.
issued out there, hey, we need to, we need to make sure they should. When I say we, they should make sure that they are allowed to hook into the system.
I don't think the
Properly.
left and the right hand are talking.
That's
well, they're not,
that's
because
definitely not happening.
at the end of the day, the problem is this. We can't, like, the guy that I talked to that he's talking about, I told him, I said, look, if we have to lay field line for this, you're responsible for it. And he said, why should I be responsible for it? I said, because we're not paying for the field line. We ate, my first month on the board, Tim, we ate, $1,200, almost $2,000 worth of field line? For building that guy, do you remember the house there on the curve? For putting that guy's in there because he built 2 houses there, fixing to build a third one, and he wouldn't move a tree, and we ate his field line cost. And I'm like, I'm not eating people's field line cost to hook up to the system anymore. They're going to pay for their field line.
I thought it said in the setup, when I read back some of the history, they'd have to pay that to begin with.
It's the way we put it in the minutes when we went back and redid this, because I couldn't find anywhere that they would have to pay for the field line, and we ate that
Isn't
cost.
part of the rules under our charter?
That's what I thought. But
So
by
why
the time I
wouldn't we
took
ever
over the
pay it?
board, it was already done. So, I mean, we know, that's why I said we have to stop at 77, 78 houses, because we don't want to go over 84, and we've got 7
Well, we know
houses
we've got 5, we're always gonna have to add 2.
just for another year.
But I want to add, if we
2 years, they got to 27
Yeah.
to tie in.
But if we're fixing to get an assessment done, and if we do the assessment and we make the correct decisions going from there, as far as how much money we have and put it towards the right upgrades out there, we could potentially
Go to 124.
get rated for 120 spots.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. to
But
me.
the biggest thing, and I'm just an outsider driving through there when it rains heavy, is I don't understand how they let anybody
It floods.
build out there when water. I mean, it's wet out there 8 months out of the year,
Yeah.
sometimes 9. Last year was a very good year as far as it didn't rain very much.
Nope.
So, but
And every
the
time
year before that,
somebody builds a house, there's a potential for a lawsuit because somebody let them do it.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've told this story to them before. I've showed up out there, and the homeowner comes out there, and they have no clue of the
Well,
system,
it's fine to drive through.
or just
most
even the
times.
system. They don't understand why the alarm's going off in their house.
course
They just thought they had a normal septic tank like they had before in the previous property.
Same thing happens in Tullahoma.
You can't get
People
flood
sell a
insurance
house
out there
and they've
either.
got a grinder pump.
Just so you know.
They have no idea
Mm-hmm.
that it's a different type of system.
Yeah.
But fortunately, under Tullahoma's rules, it doesn't cost them a penny.
Hmm.
The utility board takes care of all the maintenance and everything else.
No.
You can't get flood insurance out there on a house either
I would not think so.
without paying abnormous rates. Just
Probably not available, because typically the federal government will not insure flood zones.
it's yeah. I mean, I'm removing trees out of my backyard right now, like removing a whole lot worth of trees, and it's been a time. It's a mess.
Well, what does this committee think? What I'm proposing is we need to go to the full commission and push it back down, whether it's planning or whatever, and say, let's not make any more permits.
We would need to be. I would agree with. We need to be contacted about permits. We definitely do. I mean, we should have it to where every 3 months we bring it before the board or something and talk about permits being issued, because we've got to have something.
Why
Because
don't we add an agenda item?
we could put that on there. I just need a motion for it.
I don't see any need in putting it off. It's only gonna get worse. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll add it at the bottom for new business. Let's continue with the unfinished business on this. What do we want to set this rate at so that I can get it in the minutes and get it? I mean, if we top out at 70, which I'm okay with, but like I said, there is no way we can give them a raise until after 2026. That fiscal year is
Well,
done.
Apparently, I've heard 65 and 70. I'm not sure there's gonna be a lot of difference money-wise.
Right.
I'm the same way. I don't think it's gonna make a difference to go ahead and make it 70. And if I got a raise, I wouldn't, for 2 years, I think I could wait for another one.
I mean, these guys haven't had a raise since 2017, since they've been out there. I guess it's been 17, right?
Oh, we've been out there since 2004.
2004, sorry. So 21 years.
So the rate hadn't changed, even though their county rates have changed.
Well, our rate to my knowledge, I haven't been in charge the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
But up to the farthest I can find back,
So it's been on
Pay what?
$40.
it's been $40.
Since 17 anyway.
Oh yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's been $40 since 2004 or 5. It's when Robert started taking over and doing it,
I think
doing the
that's right
maintenance
there.
out there. Now I was just me and my guys were just helpers at that point in time. We just helped Robert when he couldn't go out there or whatever. But everything that I looked up from what he kept records of, that was the rate that he had. And since 2020, since we've been doing it, I know for sure. But I mean, it dates way back farther than that. I'm pretty sure that ever since day one, that's what the rate's been.
So way back then at 40, they were probably doing all right.
I would say they probably were doing all right. I mean, I can't speak for
Well,
Robert,
they
but
were probably getting $5 an hour back then from the county.
it was. I can't speak to that rate. We were getting paid about 10 and a quarter or something back
Yeah,
in
that's why I say
2004. But,
at 40, they're probably doing
but
all
he
right.
was still the director, so that's why it kind of fell into the director of maintenance hands. Now he took it on, and then so when he left, me and Justin were pretty much the only ones in the county that knew, anything about it. So that's kind of why it kind of fell in our hands. That's how we ended up with it. So
Okay. I'm just trying to catch up on,
yeah, no,
History and-
That's probably right, because I quit the county in 98 or so, and the pay raises never moved. It was stayed at $9 an hour forever. That's why I quit.
yeah, it was there was 15 years where I think we went from my pay personally, I can speak to my pay, went from 11 and a quarter to about 12.75, 12.85 in 15 years.
well, I started in 18, and for 4 years, it was never more than 4%.
Yeah, I think ours was the stepping grade. It was usually around 2.5 to 3%, usually every 2 years. But it was 2.5% of
But when you
28.
start at $5 and you're only getting 4%, you still have nothing.
Right?
Yeah, so I'm saying that
Right.
unfortunately the 2% was based off of your salary,
Your pay.
so it was pretty low. But
Right.
That's it.
Well, take a look at this and see if maybe
But-
we need to redo that. That was something that Judd did with Martha. That was a lease agreement for the. I'm pretty sure it was for the loan. It may not be. I don't know. It's between the county and this board, but I'm not 100% what it's about. I was
It
going to
would
bring it
have
to
been
the
before
board.
Judd, wouldn't it?
Judd signed it. It was signed in 2022. I found it when I was digging through all this paperwork, and I was like, it's a lease agreement for something, and I'm not 100% sure what.
Well, Judd came in 22.
Yeah.
And that loan apparently was way back before then.
I don't know. I took over in 23. But, so we need to, if we're good with 70, I'm going to need a motion on that and a second to move this into the minutes and agreed on the back pay.
I'll make the motion since Rick doesn't want to.
I'll second it and go for the 70 and the back pay. I think that's fair, and then we'll talk about a raise 2 years from now,
Well, hopefully.
hopefully.
We can't commit
can still
anything
talk about
for
it.
future
We can still talk about it.
meetings. We can put it in the minutes.
Yeah, we'll stick it in the minutes. We'll make sure it's there. But everybody here is still going to be here in 2027 on this board. I mean, it's a 5-year
I'm not.
appointment. Unless you plan on going to see Jesus.
I will not be a commissioner.
So we
You
need,
don't have to be. You're still
I know.
appointed.
you can anybody can resign at any time, though. I
Yep.
guess you could say. So.
That's a true story.
I read that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, I know.
You can resign at any time
I
you would like.
Totally understand.
so do we
I
need
can
to,
also understand anybody wanting to resign at any time. From
Yes, I can.
It's a. Unfortunately, we
I didn't
it's
want
a
to do
mess.
it to begin with
I
because I
know.
know sewer is always going to be a problem. and never gonna have the money.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I think
It
the
is.
county has been in a tough situation for a long time. Maybe we can turn it around.
Anybody that has to deal with sewer has got that
I mean, these are
problem.
for you guys to take for the next meeting, take a look at. I want, cause
So, do we need to vote on that to make it official?
we do. I
Yeah,
can't vote.
We need to vote.
I don't hold a vote as chairman, but you
Okay.
guys, it look like it's probably gonna be a unanimous vote between
You're
the
gonna
three.
have to vote too, I think.
You will have to
even though
vote.
You didn't make the motion.
Why can't you vote?
Because underneath the authority rules as a chairman, I can't vote. I'm only in a vote as a tiebreaker. So if all members were here and I had to break the tie, then I would vote.
So we barely have a quorum?
Yeah.
Do you count as a quorum?
Yeah.
I thought so. All you've gotta do basically is say, because I work for the county, I've got a problem for it, but I still think it's the right thing to do.
So all for the $70 in the back pay?
If he wants to vote on it. That's what I say, I think probably just to make it easy and clean, make the statement. It's just like anybody that works for the county votes on the commission, probably
Right.
shouldn't be voting on their own pay.
I feel like they don't. I feel like they usually abstain.
All right.
Most of the time they do, that's why I say. Do we have enough votes if we just do two?
You do have enough votes for it to
Okay.
pass.
Yeah, we could have one against.
Yeah, you do have enough. You do have enough votes for it to pass
You
with
can
two.
abstain,
Okay.
cause you,
Yeah.
But Rick
feel
has
like-
to. Rick, you have to acknowledge
Potentially.
that you abstained from the vote.
I will.
yeah.
I understand. All right. So
So bring the.
You're the chairman, so
So
take the vote.
all right. Vote for us to take the maintenance fee to 70 and pay the back pay till May of 24. All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
All right. 2 for the vote and 1 abstained. Vote passes. It'll be in the minutes, and I will get that to the financial department.
Can I keep that?
You sure can.
So I'll read it later?
Is
Yeah,
this-
but I do want to look into that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So if you'll take a look
I'd
into
like
that.
for us to, in our new business.
Yeah. All right. I feel like we've handled pretty much budget, and we pretty much covered almost all this in that one conversation. But for budget wise, I gave you guys all a copy of the budget to look over, and that way we can put it on the next business agenda to kind of look over this, know what's going on with it, get some time to look through it
I
because
see
it's a lot.
in the rules, we're supposedly limited to 6 meetings a year.
Yes.
I guess that really means we get 6 meetings we can get paid for.
Right.
But you can have as many meetings as you want.
Right. And this year we will probably have a few extra meetings because we've got some things that we've got to handle. We've got to get this ARP stuff rolling. So I'll be more due diligent. My health holds out this year will be great. David don't have a couple of strokes this year, and we don't have my neck cut open. I had 13 stitches in the back of my neck last year. And so as long as we don't go through all that this year, we'll be great.
When do we plan on doing the back pay? Because I don't want to approve it and then it
Well-
roll on for years.
No, I put it that at the next meeting, I'll have the minutes to be approved, and those minutes will go straight
I
to
guess it'll
Mariana.
go to the full commission, won't it?
It doesn't have to with us. We just go straight to, for that to happen because we're an authority and it comes out of us, we go straight to Mariana with our minutes and it happens then. So now that
is
we've,
this committee part of
no,
the county?
no,
Okay.
we're a standalone authority.
I feel like
We're just appointed by the county,
Yeah.
the mayor, basically.
Yes.
for
Okay.
budget purposes, I feel like it would have to be done in the next budget year.
Well, I will ask Mariana what we need to do.
Because
but-
I mean, I'm assuming we'll have to put together a budget for next year.
Yes,
Either-
and that's why we've got these.
so I would just feel like it would have to be it would need to be a line item.
Well, let me ask
in
the
that.
question that's probably not wanting to be answered, but if we're actually in the red, according to her figures,
Right.
is she gonna be willing to pay this?
Well, the thing is I don't think we're in the red.
Yeah, but it's her figures right now, and she's the one who writes the checks.
Right, but there's some questions I've got to go and ask, and I'm trying to tread lightly.
So before you tell your people,
Yeah, and
there may
and
be some reservations.
yeah, I understand. And if even if it's something that has to be done over a year period of time, or until things get worked, like my guys will be happy to just get the rate. I mean, back pay is great. I mean, I'm sure they'll, me included. I mean,
Yeah, nice
but
bonus.
but at the same time, like we
I mean-
realize that that's money has to be there.
Right.
obviously.
What
You know,
I'm going
I'm not
to
trying.
do-
We're not trying to put any extra strain on
Right.
this authority or
What I'll end up doing in the minutes is putting in there that we are going to make back pay right
yeah.
in the minutes.
That's fine.
Is as
Let's
money
just say the
proceeds,
committee voted
right? To
to
make
do this
yep, but going
as
forward,
of May 24th,
right?
and then
As of May 22nd, as of this meeting of April 17th, moving forward, it is $70 an hour is what I'll put in the minutes. When we approve those minutes on the 22nd, she will have to back pay that from the 17th to the 22nd, and then make back pay correct from May 2024. Is we have provisions to make that correct, but moving forward, their rate will be $70 an hour.
but we basically, I guess, had done it, if we'd done it properly, we should have done a budget amendment before we actually tell her, you gotta back pay May and June.
Right.
I got a question. If they're gonna get back pay, what is the rate of pay? It's gonna be $70 in May of '24, right?
It's going to be an extra
The
30
back pay
on
will be
every hour
30,
that they
yeah.
worked.
Right.
Okay.
It'll be an extra $30 an hour for every hour.
Starting May of '24.
Right.
Okay.
But again, like Dwight said, the money has to be there. So
Right.
I don't know. Like, this is the first time me seeing how much money we have or how we operate. Obviously, I'm just mostly focused on the maintenance part of it and that side of it. I don't really know the financial side of it very well. So I guess my question would kind of be like what you said, like we gotta have the money. If the money's not
Yes, I'd
there,
say
there's no
Right now, we can
Yeah.
say all we
Yeah.
want.
correct.
If there's
yeah.
no money,
Correct. So
it's not gonna
I
happen.
don't know if you like what you
I'm
said.
not writing a check.
If there's something else that we need to have a different way to word it to to make sure that
Right.
we take care of that part of it first. We might need to do that. But
I think we're going, that difference between what you're showing and Mariana's showing is gonna be a problem until it's figured out.
And that's why I'm thankful for the comptroller audit. So that's going to dig into a lot of it.
That'll be a while though, won't it?
Shouldn't be. It says it should only take 60 days according to the letter they sent.
Yeah, to me, that's a while. For pay for people.
Yeah.
But I'm, I guess, feeling uneasy with her figures. Most anything we do is gonna be a problem. If we're actually in the red.
I mean, what we're not seeing and what I haven't seen in any of her budgets is what I'm not seeing is any of our new hookups, which I have receipts for and applications
Well,
for.
I'm beginning to think that's the problem. It didn't get into the county funds or where they need to go to bring the balance.
Right. So that's what I'm
in
concerned
this
with because
authority's
I have the
money.
receipts for them where the people have paid them and we gave them a
Okay.
receipt from the
Well,
office.
I'm feeling better if that's the case,
Because I
because
had
that money should have gone
straight into our account.
straight into the authority.
Right. Because I think Rick has us at 10-2 is what we've been paying for a system.
I understand that, but devil's advocate here. So, from my best knowledge, we've only had 3 or maybe 4 systems installed, and we only got the new pricing on for one of those systems. Like before then, we were actually getting, if just enough to put the systems in, maybe just barely over. So we've only put in one new system at the higher rate. So when you say we've got all this money from putting these new systems in, all those systems were put in at a much lower rate, barely covered, and that's why we had to redo the rate, was because before patrons were only paying $10,000 to install a system. Well, the installs cost $9,800,
Right. Well, I've done.
and that
I did 2 systems last year, 3 systems
At the
last
higher
year
rate?
at the higher rate, and then we've done 2 this year.
When you
And
say
fixing to a
last
third.
year, you're talking about the current physical year though, right?
As in,
From July?
no. As in the 2024 year, 2025 year.
So did you and Mariana ever agree within the last year?
but I'm not trying to.
No, you're good.
I would double check because last year was the last time that I bid that out at the new higher rate.
Okay.
And I'm almost positive we've only installed 1 system at that rate. Now you may have gotten paid for 2 this year, but neither one of those systems have been paid for. Is that what you're saying? Like you're saying we have
So
$30,000 that was turned into the county that hasn't hit your line item yet,
Right.
correct? Okay. And what I understand that. What I'm saying is
That's a big jump.
most like 20,000 of that, or 2,200 of that will be
Right.
paid out to put the systems in.
Right.
Okay,
So we're
now
not-
you're getting 8.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm hearing
in the
it now.
previous 2 years, that when you maybe right before you or as soon as you took over, I bid it out, and the county was only collecting the
10
10, and the previous bid before this last one
was 13.
it was like 10 or 10-2 or something. We were losing a couple $100 because the tanks went up so much, and that's why we had to rebid it out at the higher rate.
Because last year we did the guy with the tree, and he got the old rate, but the guy across Wayside that we ended up having to dig the road up for, he was on
That's the only one that we've got the higher rate on. That was the first one after I rebid it. Now you've mentioned now that you've been paid for 2 systems that we haven't installed yet, which one
Right.
we are currently trying to put in.
Okay, let's say, stopping right there, the 2 systems y'all agreed to, that $30,000, where did it go?
I haven't seen that or the one that we did for the guy that we dug underneath the
Well,
road for.
the next question is, the 20-something thousand, 22 or whatever, each one of them has to be paid for through the contractor. Where's that money going?
That money comes out of our account, but the money, when these guys write us a check for the 15, it goes to the trustee.
So it didn't ever hit the authority.
Right. It
But
goes to the
you're writing
trustee.
the checks for the 22 for the
Well,
contractor?
no, so I turn all those receipts into to Mariana's office, and
So
she pays
she's
it.
writing
She,
both sides.
as far as I know.
She's
Well, I don't know
getting-
about the other.
She's getting the 30 and
I don't.
seven.
No, I don't know that she's getting the 30. The 30. And again, this is not my side. I'm
Yeah,
trying
I
to
don't-
speak
I
the
don't
best
know
I
either.
can, but
But she's paying the 22.
The check goes to the mayor's office. The last I heard.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is because I did the bids. Okay, like I do I kind of sit in on the bid opening. I'm kind of involved in the bids. Now they go through the budget office, and so the last time we got the higher rate, or we had to rebid it because the tanks and stuff, everything went up, so it was costing more than what the patrons were paying. So then we raised that. When I say we, I wasn't part of the board, but they raised that to the 15 to cover pretty much over the next X amount of years any rate increase.
And the cost was 11.
Well, I
the
rebid
contract.
it. I rebid it last year, or the year before, probably the end of last year. I rebid it, and it came in at like I think 10-2. So the authority kind of takes that as a they get $4,800, which should in turn go back towards, I feel like, maintenance or whatever fees to help.
Now, back one more time. Mariana's writing the checks for the contractor for the 10,200 or whatever.
Up until this last year, now after they had whatever fallout and there was no budget turned in,
Well, let's say
we haven't done. I
It's
haven't.
not Mariana.
I haven't
the
done one.
county is writing checks for each installation, 10,200, right?
I can't speak to that. I turned it into Mariana's
Are
office.
you writing those checks?
I don't write those checks.
No,
Okay.
I don't have
I feel
access.
like
So
Mariana,
it's both going through the county.
both of them are going through the county. So
Okay,
I
that's what I
I
wanna
drop
find
off
out.
the invoice when I get the invoice from the contractors for anything Wayside.
So they're
Even-
both
even
going
pumps.
through the county. So the only question is, what's the difference? The 4,000, where is it going?
And, and like I said, I don't see
agree?
the director or the chairman of this committee, which is David at the time. I assume is the only one that gets any financial reports. Like I don't get any financial reports.
And I didn't get I don't get financial reports emailed to me. I literally had to go to a different source to get these financial reports, and so you have financial reports all the way up until
I talked
February.
to Mariana a couple of days ago, or yesterday, whenever. And as far as I know, she doesn't do the accounting for Wayside. Is that right?
Under my knowledge, she does. She pays our bills.
Well, she's doing all that through the county, is, I guess, what I'm hearing. It may have a line item in the county
I mean, because our
that says,
if you look in the physical
contracts,
budget for
whatever.
the county, we're in the bottom of the budget. If you look at the actual budget for the county, Like-
this is the last year's, this current year's, no, it's last year. In 24, yeah. That's all it is, right there. And the only revenue items is water treatment charges, loan payments, and water tap sales. So there's your 15,000, right?
water tap sales, yeah.
So the question is, evidently, there was never anything figured out, the differential. It's evidently assumed the cost is 20,000. So the 4,000 differential between the revenue and the expense check is in limbo, apparently. But that's only been
For
apparently
three
three or four
systems.
taps,
Yeah, three
3 taps.
now.
That's not a whole lot of money.
I mean, it's still 12 grand.
It is, but it's not 100.
But it's, and like I said, I don't know how it all works exactly. It was my understanding that if I have a system installed, because I'm usually the one that kind of oversees the systems being installed, just because I work with the contractors and I did the bid, I helped assist the bids. They send me the bill, okay, and I just turn it into Mariana's office. Now, who pays
Like
it?
any other bill you get.
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's kind of always just worked.
I think I figured it out.
It's always worked with
It
me,
just
just like
never
my normal
was-
department.
There never was any knowledge for Mariana to know the difference or worry about
Yeah,
it.
and that's kind of what I spoke to on the last meeting when I said,
We should have had
We-
another line item in this budget that says, differential,
well,
where
so
it says sales, that's fine. But on the, you don't have a revenue back
or you
for
don't.
the
I,
4,000.
like I haven't looked at this, but I don't know. Does it not? So
It
it
was a
shows
wash.
like 15,000, and we've only done one. Before then, the systems were dead even. It was
I was about to say,
basically
right here, it doesn't matter
yeah, like
because you were probably losing money.
because we were losing money for a
And the
couple
county was
systems.
eating it.
For a couple systems, but it was only a couple $100. But we were losing money, a couple $100.
But right now, because apparently
We've
nobody has even thought about that, it needs another line item of the differential.
So before it was probably like, well, so here's $15,000 from the home owner, right, to put the system in. Well, then I come in and I say, well, here's my bill, not my bill, but here's the bill to put the new system in for 10-2. Well, they're just taking out, and then maybe I come in with another bill. Just 3 weeks ago, I had to buy a discharge pump, a circulating pump, and 3 house pumps. Well, that's $7,000. I turned that bill in. Well, that money apparently has to come out of there too.
Do you handle any money? That's gonna be a problem. So
I don't
where's
handle
the
anything.
4,000 gonna show up?
Well, I mean, the
I don't handle anything. Everything goes through the mayor's. When they bring a check, it goes through the mayor's office. All I do is
Nobody outside of the county handles any money, apparently.
I don't handle nothing.
So somehow it needs to be a line item entry to show the value. But nobody's writing any checks until you submit something and you ask the county to pay it.
And it used to be that I had it set up the first year that I was here, and it worked out great. Hey, when you guys get an invoice, if you will email me the invoice, whatever we're paying, so that I can keep up with it, I'd be grateful, and I'll sign off on it and approve it. And that worked for about 6 months, and then they quit doing it. And they just said they didn't have time to do it. And I said, I understand that.
Well, the conference center is not really part of the county or Manchester, but it goes through their budgets, much like this right here. But they handle their own money, and I'm not suggesting we won't do that. I don't want to be part of it,
No.
but that is a problem, apparently. We don't have any money.
Well, when we took this board over in 2023, we had $189,000. We had a budget of $97,000. We bring in $65,000 a year based off of homes. At the current rate, we bring in $65,000.
But you're not factoring in all the cost of that 65,000 from the revenue. Because you're not really getting 65,000. You were breaking even basically if doing anything. Now you're making 4,000.
Well, out of the 65,000, it was able to. That's what I'm saying is if we had 189,000 2 years ago in the fund,
Yeah.
okay, and we were bringing in 65,000 a year, and our budget was 97,000. That's a difference of 32,000 for 2 years. That's 64,000. Still should be over $100,000 in the account. That's simple math. Third grader can figure that out.
I just don't know if you're factoring in everything though,
It
because
doesn't
you
sound
haven't
like it.
seen if you're not seeing the charges for all the stuff that's going on out there. I feel like
But the budget charges for maintenance for that year, for 2023 alone, were $17,000. For that entire year, it was budgeted into the 97,000
yeah.
at
But that's,
17,000.
what about like the cost of all the pumps and everything? I know when I first
Right.
before I was on the
We
board, I
approved
came.
12,
We approved like a $12,000
Right.
for that.
but none of that equals $100,000.
22 is the last thing I show was audited. And it says revenues, $88,482. Expenditures, $106,817. So we lost nearly $20,000 in 22. We're not making money. 23 is not audited, but it unaudited actual, the revenue was 90,000 and expenditures 105, so we've lost another $5,000 in addition to the 20 before. So we're going down. There isn't any chance that we're maintaining $100 and something thousand.
I'm just wondering if it's the depreciation account that I'm looking at. I don't know. I haven't seen accounts.
Depreciation is listed in here.
Because as depreciation, what I've got is $326,699 in depreciation.
How much?
$326,699.
Oh, that's total?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that. I've just got each budget. been knocking 30,000, looks like for 3 years for depreciation.
Mm-hmm. Roughly.
Which hopefully leaves you some money to do repairs.
Well, if you can get anybody to touch the depreciation fund, that's what it's supposed to be for.
Yep.
But you say that to Mariana, and I'm not supposed to touch the depreciation fund. It's what we got in an argument about. It's one of them. It's one of the arguments. I got the email thread to prove it.
But the depreciation fund, again, way out of my. Is that not supposed to be touched until after the loan is paid off? Is that
No,
like
according to the comptroller, it just can't go below 5% of
5%
the value,
of the value of the loan or value of?
the value of the loan. And we're down below 100,000 on the loan.
Typically, depreciation is the amount of money. If you buy $100,000 machinery, you know it's gonna have to be replaced in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're doing 10,000 a year, set up that depreciation
So by the time
factor so you can
Yeah.
replace it.
Yeah, I got that. I just wasn't sure if we were like if it was set up to where you weren't supposed to touch that until the loan was run.
Well, this factor, I'm sure, is the loan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's just listed as depreciation.
yeah. So this is probably not something that probably everybody wants to hear, but I guess my question is how do we lower the rate when we're losing $30,000 a year?
Lower what rate?
The rate of what we're charging the homeowners.
I think we're making a mistake.
And-
We hadn't been charging enough.
Well, what we did, and the reason that we did it, and the reason that we lowered the rate for them at that time, was to get them to actually pay it.
Yeah, that's a good reason to get it paid, but it won't pay the bills.
But we were already $27,000 at that time of unpaid, and there was no way to make them pay it. We had no legal standing to make them pay it.
Well, back to, we should never put another house in there. At some point, the county may go, this loan's paid up, we're done with it. Y'all can do whatever you want with your houses, but the state's probably gonna shut you down, and you won't be able to sell your house. If they don't start paying and pay enough, I don't see another alternative.
Because I just feel like
See, now as of March 24, underneath when the utility board did an audit on our finances, we were no longer in distress.
So, we were on the bad list
We
apparently
were.
before this.
Mhm. And that's 9 months. That was after I lowered the rate.
Well, I don't know. I'm just looking at this for 2 years in a row. The audited amount lost our net.
I get it. I'm just saying, if these people
So-
are coming in and doing an independent audit, what are they looking at?
I don't know either, because if we lowered the rate and we were already losing, it doesn't make.
and not to mention the
doesn't make
cost.
math.
The cost of everything is
Right.
skyrocketing. I mean,
I get it.
like I said, I just bought,
But we
some
can't
just some
very
maintenance
well-
pumps, some maintenance stuff for, just one discharge pump and one recirculating pump when we have 4 of each.
I mean, because our agreement with Hillsville is if we raise the rate, they're not going to agree to hold accountable and tie the water with it. Right now, we have them to where we have them in a situation to where they told me that their board, when I met with them and went before their board, was, hey, we will tie the water with this. If they're more than 90 days late on their sewer, we will cut their water off.
So you got this agreement with Hillsborough after the
Based,
rate cut?
based on cutting the rate.
Well, I understand
But-
all of it except for the fact that it doesn't pay the bills.
Let me. So when you made the agreement with Hillsville, though, you're saying that if, let's just say we decided to raise the rate to whatever, you're saying Hillsville will no longer do the same deal just
They-
because we're raising the rate, or
they
did you
will
not,
no-
or
they
did we
will
not
no
pay them
longer-
more money? Didn't we pay them more money per bill to hold them accountable?
Yes, we paid them $1 more per person.
So isn't that the reason that they're holding people accountable, not necessarily that we lowered the rate?
They said in the
'Cause that
agreement that
doesn't-
we have, and I'll bring it to the next meeting, and
Yeah.
the agreement that we have for them was because of the rate. And we paid them more.
Well,
So I'll bring that agreement in and let you guys look
Yeah.
at it.
I understand Hillsville's position. It's really hard to collect when people feel like I can't afford water, when a whole lot more money is actually being collected for
Sewage.
system than it is for water.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand all that, but it's still a problem. Lowering the amount to get the bills paid is not fixing the problem.
Yeah.
It's only gonna
We
get a
feel
whole
like
lot worse.
Hillsville doesn't want to tie their water basically to our system. Like,
I don't blame them.
you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to lose their $40 a month because we're trying to
For
get
$3?
Yeah, for $3 a bill because we're trying to get 100.
Right.
The same thing happened. Tullahoma wanted to stick it on me as the financial person at the utility board, start collecting garbage fees. And I said, no, we got water, sewer, and all that sort of stuff, has nothing to do with garbage. Well, it's easy for you to collect it because you're billing it and sending it out anyway. I said, yeah, but the problem is you're gonna end up with a water bill of $30 or $20 or whatever, and that's all they're gonna be willing to pay, not the difference.
Yeah,
And I said, and then how am I gonna handle that?
yeah,
I said, I'm not gonna send you the check for the garbage,
yeah,
and if those people aren't paying it, you're only causing me a problem because you're having a bunch of unpaid bills sitting on my ledgers.
yeah,
And how am I gonna deal with it? What am I gonna do with it? I've gotta look at every bill every month going, well, did they pay enough for that or that?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not doing it.
yeah. Kind of,
So I
kind of
understand.
the same situation.
It is.
I mean, we could take the bill back up, but my issue with that is people don't have to pay it. That's the problem, and that's where we were. We were
Well, I've-
$27,000 in the rear because people didn't have to pay it.
Do you disagree with what I'm saying?
No, not at all.
Regardless of what the amount is, if it's not enough to keep the system going, it's gonna fail anyway, and the county's not gonna keep funding this. And we just kicked out through the federal government $1 million to help this system. But it's not gonna help these people if they don't pay whatever it costs, or they're gonna lose their houses anyway, likely. You could not sell a house.
Without sewer. But
It's a terrible setup.
yeah, I mean that's why everybody that's here understands that we're in a mess because it's, you know.
I mean, that's why I want to look into seeing where the extra money that they pay in land taxes is going. That money should be going into this board to help that out.
Well, there are a number of locations throughout the county that people pay different property taxes.
Right, but when this was passed, and I only know this because I know a few people that were sitting on the commission at the time, when this was passed through the CLB, land taxes were made, property taxes were made higher out there because of this loan to help pay it back.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if that money's still, because I don't see it anywhere either. It could be.
You know what they'll likely say? What about the million we just kicked in for the contract?
Who kicked in?
The federal government gave it to the county, and the county could do whatever they wanted to with it.
975,000 that was made for Wayside, yeah.
Authorized by the commission. I don't know. There aren't any good answers that I know of.
Mm-mm.
I have no idea about the amount you're talking about on property taxes, what it's for.
I don't either, that's what I've got to look into.
I do know, I was on budget and finance for 4 years anyway, that not every part of the county gets the same rate of tax. And there's different reasons.
Mhm.
All rural pays more than people in cities,
Do agree. I got properties in both.
primarily because of schools.
Yep, I got properties in both. I got properties in the
I do
Westwood
too.
area and I got properties out there.
I've got it
And I got
two
property in Franklin
cities
County.
and, the county. Yep,
And I got property in Franklin County and over there it's a little bit more expensive.
I bet.
Yeah, because I'm on the lake. So
Oh, I
it's,
bet you are then.
so it's a little bit more expensive over there.
But you know that. And you knew
Knew that when I
the
went in and bought
value
it.
of, anytime you wanna sell your place, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But these people are not.
Nope.
Unfortunately, you're one of them, but. So what can we do?
Gonna have to get some financial answers on this. For one, some clarity.
I guess so. Well, you know, I don't know that the comptroller's gonna get you the answers that you're looking for.
I don't even
'cause
want
when
the
I'm
answers I'm
looking
looking
at
for.
this
I just
right
want
here,
clarity.
It looks like it's been going down for a while, and the fact that we have lowered the fees is only making it worse.
I mean, it kind of goes back to again. I mean, we just raised the maintenance. We raised the maintenance pay. Pumps, I can tell you, pumps, tanks, lids, all that stuff has doubled in the last. Maybe not doubled, but close to doubled. At least 60 to 70% increase since
Electricity's gone up.
since the time the system has been put in. You know what I mean? Like you could probably back 10, 15 years ago, you could get a pump for $450. Now they cost $800 to $900. That's just a regular household pump. The
When they-
discharge pumps cost $1,600, whereas 15 years ago you could probably get it for $800.
I'm surprised electricity's not higher than this.
When they originally did this system, if you look at the original agreement for a household, it was $3,000. That was it, to put the system in.
Yeah.
And
It-
people were throwing a fit over $3,000.
It will help
17 people sued us.
if the loan gets paid off, but
Well, if the loan gets
It's
paid
only
off, that's
gonna-
$36,000 a year that we're paying on loan.
yeah, but that's just not enough. It would have kept us from hitting the red every year, which is surprising to me on that thing you just showed me that they said, okay, it was close enough, I guess.
Which makes me wonder why we can't use some of the depreciation value to cover some of the maintenance. The depreciation money that's sitting there. Being we only have to go, we can't go below a certain amount with the comptroller's office.
If it weren't for that federal money, we might as well fold the doors. 'Cause that would have made it a whole lot worse.
Mm-hmm. And like I spoke on the last meeting, the the contractor that I talked to that's doing the upgrades, that money that we have sitting there is not enough to do what
We'll just
is
have
needed.
to
We
make
have
it
to.
do.
He said what we'll have to do is we'll have to take the money that we have and we'll address the things that are at the most need first,
I'd say that's the case.
and then hopefully within the next year or two we can maybe get some more grants to help.
I was gonna ask,
That's what I'm
we've
been
got
looking
this
into.
county
Hmm.
employee
Yes, David. Yeah, I've been
David.
talking with him.
that, if we could find some grants, that would be a plus.
Hmm.
But until we do, things not looking good. Well, I guess we have discussed most everything on there, except the next meeting.
Next meeting I've got put down for the 22nd of May. If anybody's got something going on, let me know. We can move that up a week or down a week, however y'all see fit.
We can't,
I'm trying to keep
let's
meetings
see.
flowing so we can get this stuff handled.
Right now, I don't have anything down.
Rick, what about you?
No, I should be good.
Tim?
The next meeting, are we
As far as I
going?
know I'm good.
Are we going to be discussing the budget? Is that why?
Yeah, that's why I went ahead and gave you a copy.
Well,
Of what?
there's a little bit of problem, I guess. According to the bylaws, we were supposed to turn it into the county April the 1st for the budget. If we wait till May 22nd, how's Mariana gonna have anything to put in the budget?
Well, the thing is I have to turn it into the comptroller's office. And we just agreed at the last work session that we had was to take the budget out of the county hands and do our budget ourselves. So if we're doing our budget ourselves, then I just have to turn it into the comptroller's office.
Okay, back to that. If that's the case, where's the money gonna flow? If the county doesn't have a budget and nothing to show for the money, how's that gonna work?
I'm not 100% sure.
Mariana's gonna go, I'm not doing anything. Don't bring me any bills, don't bring me anything else. I think we're gonna have to do a budget much sooner than then. Cause it's gonna hit the county commission in June.
Go. I mean, I'm fine with coming back in 2 weeks if that's what we need to do to try to iron something out. But I mean,
I think we're gonna have to step it up, cause we're behind the
and there is. I mean,
The deal.
I'm outside looking in. There's got to be some clarity about.
We got to know what's in those accounts.
Well, that's fine too. But I mean,
we still gotta make a budget.
we got to
Yeah.
some
If we're gonna
clarity
keep
about.
going,
Yeah, where
give
what
something
money
to Mariana,
what money we have,
get it
and what
going.
money we got coming in, what money we got going out.
cause
Cause
it's gonna be whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think we owe it to the county, to Mariana, to whoever, to get a budget in quick as we can and do our part.
I can do Monday the 12th. That afternoon, otherwise it's gonna have to be later in the afternoon for me. Any other thing I do will have to be after 5.
Can you do it before?
Yeah,
We got the 24th of this month and the 1st.
I mean, I can't do anything for the remainder of this month, but anything in May I can do, but it'd have to be later in the afternoon.
Can you do May 1?
Yeah, it'd just have to be later in the afternoon.
I don't care about the time. It's
Well,
all time.
we have capital outlay May 1,
Okay.
from 4 to 5. But I mean,
Can we do it after?
we can do it after that. I guess we're already sitting here, so I'm fine with doing it
Okay.
May 1st after 5 o'clock.
Want to do like 5:30 in case y'all run over?
I'm okay.
Okay, I'm good with that. Only reason I say that is because they just put me in a Murfreesboro unit for a couple of weeks, and that's going to take me some time to get through traffic.
Do we think we'll have any more clarity though on as far as?
I'm gonna ask,
Okay.
and I'm gonna go and have some come to Jesus with Mariana and beg her to talk to me, and apologize and see if we can't get through this, and me beg her to just have a conversation with me, and see if I can't get some clarity.
Well, I think it'd be nice to know what it is, but I don't know the history or any of the rest of it. But I'm thinking it seems to be a problem. Mariana never wanted to do it to begin with. As far as she's concerned, it's not part of the county.
Yep.
And it's not her job. And Wayside people have got to do something. So we just need to work something out cordially to say,
And this is where I'm
What
going to
do we
go in
need
and
to
just
do?
have that conversation with her and go, hey, I know it's a pain. You don't want to deal with it. I apologize if I've offended you. Can you help me work through this and let us know where we're at? I mean, I've done it in email, but I'll do it in person and see how that works. I got no issue having those conversations. And see how,
well, people ought to be able to talk. Not everyone can, so we just have to be real nice as we can to make it not worse. I understand Mariana's position when she feels like it's just extra work to begin with. It's kind of like all of us. I don't guess any of us really want to need to be here, do we?
I don't know anymore.
It's not your pay, it's not your employment.
Yeah. I mean, the reason
Why
that
not?
we got involved in it though is because it is a good opportunity for for me and my guys to make extra money, but it is it has gotten to a certain point where it has to be worth their while. You know that's
Well-
pretty much what we're talking about.
The only reason I'm still here is I think the people at Wayside have got a problem I don't know how to solve. But if we just all throw up our hands and say we're doing nothing,
Yeah.
then nothing
I know
gets
what's
done.
gonna happen. It's all gonna fail,
And then the state's
cause I'm
going to
not
step
gonna be
in.
one of those that votes on the county commission to keep throwing money.
I agree.
Yeah. I guess my hope is that with the money that we have gotten from the state, that we can turn the plant around, and I think that's where it starts, obviously. If we can get the plant in good standing condition and operating at its potential, we can add on the 5 or 6 systems that, from the properties that are already there. Now, as far as people building new houses out there, that's I don't know.
No, we
How
gotta-
it's crazy to me, but I'm also not a contractor or a builder, and I don't work for the codes department, so I don't know how they keep allowing that to happen. But obviously, as this authority, if you think of us like Duck River or whatever, the only way that we prosper is that we maintain a high quality of service from our system, which obviously our plant needs to be better, and that's what we're working on. And then we also need to have the ability to add on if that's where part of our revenue comes from. But then there's going to be a certain point where that's going to stop.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's
then
not
where
say-
does so
the
then where does the
revenue
money
is
come?
not really a factor.
Yeah,
It's like, building schools or whatever.
yeah,
You don't, I've come to the conclusion some time ago, being on the commission, people always say growth. We need growth for schools. We need this. The growth doesn't pay the schools.
yeah. Well, I feel
If
like
it weren't for the federal government and the state,
yeah,
we'd never be able to open a school.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things in the county
People
where
paying property tax does not pay the school bills.
Very
Yeah.
true.
And I feel like that's where the county came in at Wayside is like they've kind of felt sorry for the people who lived out there because they were in a situation
Well,
where
I
they
think that's the
couldn't
case.
they couldn't get themselves out of.
I think that's the case, but I don't think, just like the conference center, I was
Yeah.
one that brought it to Manchester and the conference center to say, we're not gonna keep doing this on the county side.
Yeah.
And so Manchester decided to take it over. But Coffee County would have shut that thing down if it would have been up to Manchester not doing it.
Still think hotels should have bought that thing out.
Yeah. But I feel like
Well,
with,
it should have. It never should have happened. Because actually, Holiday Inn was building the thing to begin with. And some smart people in this county, who I'm sure had a finger in it, decided, we'll just do it ourselves and make money. It ain't ever gonna happen.
yeah. I feel like with Wayside though, we're coming to it like so. We're coming to the cycle where the plant itself is coming to the end of life.
Mhm.
So it's almost like we're starting over again.
But
To
like I said,
they're going to be if we didn't get the funding from the state or whatever, the plant would sink, and if the county didn't
We would have to
get
step
another
to the
loan
state,
for $1 million to get the plant back up, we'd be in the same situation we were 20 years ago.
and then we'd have to go back to the state and take out
Mhm.
another $10 million loan.
It's like a 20-year cycle that we're gonna hit every single 20 years when the plant.
20 years ago, I figured out Tullahoma Utilities Board, it was gonna cost us $10 million back then, every 10 years, to re-upgrade the sewer plant. That wasn't building one, that was just basically doing what we're gonna do here.
Mm-hmm.
And it only got worse every year, so this isn't gonna get any better either.
No, it's going to be a vicious cycle. Well, we just happen
It
to be on the
is,
back end of
and
the 20 years.
This time we got the federal government, but we're gonna have to, unfortunately, have these people pay enough in depreciation
Mm-hmm.
for the future.
Correct. That's
'Cause
what
we can't count on anybody else.
Well, we don't want to
kicking
get
in.
to the end of another 25-year cycle and
in
us
that
not
much
having the
money.
money and be like, hey,
Right.
well, the last time the state gave us $1 million, where's that?
Yeah.
Because then it's going to be $1.5 million 20 years from now. Where's the state?
Probably
Where's
two.
the money at?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. We have to, try to plan for that.
I'll give David a call in the morning and see if he can start looking into grants. It's not an immediate
And if
fix,
it's-
but it's a long term.
If y'all don't care, I'm gonna call the mayor tomorrow
Yep,
and get the ball rolling on no more permits.
I'm good with that.
I agree with that.
It's only gonna make things worse. Okay. You want a motion
I gotta have one.
to adjourn? I'll make that motion,
I'll second it.
and we'll meet on the first.
See y'all on the first.
Sure will. There's your pen.
Any update from that lady that lives 2332 or 3223?
I've asked, I've called her twice, I still haven't got an answer from her. I'm like, lady, you bugged me for
I
6
know.
months, and now
And
you.
we just talked to her the last week and said we're going to start.
I'll go down there this afternoon.
I'll get it
right
on the way
Right
out.
by there and catch see if you can catch her.
Yeah.
And maybe they've started putting up whatever fence that they've had
Well,
on.
her husband,
I'm gonna go to the
her
planning commission
husband
the
owns
22nd.
a fencing and decking
Meeting.
company, so I'm wondering
That'd
if
be
it's not
another
supplies.
good bring it up.
You guys
I'm
want
gonna
to
bring it up what's